$420 million Russian missile train obliterated as Ukrainian drones paralyzed Siberian rail. Today, a single night operation in the Siberian interior demonstrated that modern warfare no longer rewards scale or prestige partnerships on their own. In one coordinated action, the rail artery carrying foreign missiles towards the front was erased under burning steel and a man-made avalanche. What followed was not a conventional exchange of fire, but a cascading failure across sensors, command decisions, and physical geography. By dawn, conservative assessments placed Russian losses near $420 million, reflecting destroyed munitions and operational delays. This outcome was achieved not through massed firepower, but through timing, terrain exploitation, and cost asymmetry. 5 low-cost drones forcing 9-figure consequences. To understand how this unfolded, the sequence must be followed from the beginning. At 2:17 a.m., temperatures at Koltok Pass hovered near -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind funneled through the narrow canyon at sustained speeds approaching 35 miles per hour, producing unpredictable turbulence along the rail corridor. At that moment, 5 jet-powered objects entered the pass, maintaining an altitude of roughly 40 feet above ground level. The flight profile was deliberate. Impact was under 2 minutes away, and terrain masking below radar line of sight was the only requirement. 30 miles away, in a concealed operations space, operators affiliated with the ATE's resistance network monitored a single laptop screen. 5 icons advanced steadily toward a convergence point. These were UJ-25 Skyline one-way attack drones, compact jet-powered platforms carrying 22-pound explosively formed penetrator warheads. Each airframe was assembled largely from commercial components and improvised supply chains. Their value was not in survivability, but in precision. The designated target was NK-47, a heavily loaded rail convoy consisting of 52 cars. Intelligence reporting assessed that the train was carrying approximately 300 tons of mixed artillery ammunition and propellant, along with 48 North Korean KN-23 short-range ballistic missiles, reportedly en route to rear area depots. At the time of the operation, NK-47 was approaching a notoriously difficult section of track. Russian railway engineers privately referred to it as the death curve, a sharply constrained bend pressed between a near-vertical cliff face and a drop of more than 1,500 feet. The section was engineered for slow, controlled transit, not sudden braking or evasive action. Defending this corridor was a layered air defense package. A S-400 Triumph battery provided long-range surveillance and engagement coverage out to approximately 250 miles, supported by an Orlan-10 reconnaissance drone conducting routine patrols along the route. On paper, the system offered comprehensive protection. In practice, it relied on assumptions about threat altitude, approach vectors, and reaction time, assumptions shaped by doctrine rather than recent battlefield adaptation. Those assumptions had already been undermined. 1 week earlier, during a severe blizzard that reduced visibility to near zero, Ukrainian-linked agents infiltrated the rail corridor and emplaced seismic vibration sensors along the track bed. These sensors were passive, immune to electronic countermeasures, and calibrated to detect the vibration signature of heavy rolling stock. As NK-47 entered the canyon, the sensors activated, confirming the train's precise position and speed in real time. At 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 30 seconds AM, the drone formation reached the mouth of Koltok Canyon. Turbulence intensified as airflow compressed between rock walls, forcing onboard flight computers to perform hundreds of micro adjustments per second to maintain stability. At that point, the operation transitioned into its deception phase. Skyline Alpha and Beta broke formation and climbed aggressively, pulling close to 4 Gs as they ascended toward high altitude. During the climb, both deployed Lüneburg lenses, passive radar reflectors designed to artificially inflate an object's radar cross-section. On Russian radar displays, the 2 lightweight drones no longer appeared as small, unmanned systems. Instead, they resembled NATO-type fast movers, F-16 class signatures, closing from altitude. Inside the S-400 command vehicle, warning screens populated rapidly with high-priority tracks. Standard procedure required correlation and confirmation across multiple sensors. With the train inside the engagement box and NATO-like tracks on scope, the decision window collapsed to seconds. The battery commander authorized immediate engagement. Two 40N6 long-range interceptors were cold-launched, ejected from their canisters before igniting their motors. Within seconds, they accelerated to hypersonic-class speeds, weapons designed to counter ballistic and high-altitude threats at extreme ranges. Against the decoys, the missiles were technically effective, but strategically inefficient. Both interceptors detonated successfully. Alpha and Beta were destroyed in high-altitude fireballs visible across the valley. Inside the command vehicle, operators interpreted the result as a successful interception of manned aircraft. Brief celebration followed. That decision had consequences. By firing, the S-400 battery made itself easier to locate and predict. Radar emissions intensified, missile plumes and debris cluttered sensor displays, and attention shifted upward toward the perceived aerial threat. During this critical window, the real attack progressed below, largely unobserved. Along the canyon floor, Skylines Charlie, Delta, and Echo continued their approach at approximately 40 feet altitude, skimming the frozen riverbed. The S-400 radar could not detect them. Radar energy propagates in straight lines and cannot bend around terrain. The canyon walls created a complete radar shadow, rendering even advanced systems ineffective against targets flying that low. The final Russian sensor layer was the Orlan 10 patrol drone. According to resistance-linked reporting, its electro-optical and thermal payload detected anomalous heat signatures moving rapidly along the canyon floor. The operator transmitted an urgent warning, bypassing standard reporting channels. Inside the S-400 command vehicle, the atmosphere shifted immediately. The commander reoriented the 92 N6E engagement radar downward, switching from wide area search to sector scan. For a brief moment, one drone climbed slightly while navigating a rock outcrop, producing a fleeting line-of-sight cue rather than a stable track. The window was narrow, but sufficient for a snap engagement attempt. A 9M96 short-range interceptor was launched. The missile accelerated rapidly and descended into the canyon. Aboard Skyline Charlie, a simple onboard warning receiver registered the engagement. Without human intervention, the drone's control system executed a hard descent to approximately 15 feet above ground level, flying below treetop height. As Charlie maneuvered around a granite spur, reflected radar energy from the terrain overwhelmed the interceptor's seeker. The missile overshot by several feet and impacted the canyon wall, detonating on contact. The resulting blast wave destabilized Charlie, briefly inverting the drone before recovery thrusters restored controlled flight just above the ice. The explosion alerted the train crew. The NK-47 engineer applied additional throttle, but a 12,000-ton train cannot meaningfully accelerate within seconds. Security detachments on flatbed cars opened fire with AK-74 rifles and a mounted PKM machine gun, saturating the narrow canyon with tracer fire. One round struck Skyline Delta, severing a hydraulic line. The drone compensated by increasing engine output beyond nominal limits, remaining on course despite damage. At approximately 800 yards, a seismic alert confirmed that NK-47 had fully entered the critical curve. The drones adjusted formation into a triangular terminal geometry. Their objective was not the locomotive body or fuel systems, but the lead bogie assembly, the wheel structure responsible for guiding the locomotive through the bend. Terminal boosters ignited. Charlie's optical seeker locked onto the target. Russian electronic warfare systems initiated GPS jamming, but it had no effect. The drones had transitioned to optical flow navigation, using terrain imagery rather than satellite signals for guidance. Inside the locomotive, the engineer applied the emergency brake. Air pressure dropped rapidly through the brake line, inducing an abrupt braking response. On the curve, the emergency brake locked guidance out of the wheel rail system, amplified lateral forces, and pushed the locomotive into derailment dynamics. At 2:18 a.m., Skyline Charlie struck the front left bogie. The drone disintegrated on impact, but its EFP warhead formed a high-velocity molten copper penetrator, reportedly traveling at several times the speed of sound. The penetrator destroyed the wheel flange and shattered the assembly. Deprived of proper guidance, the locomotive derailed, slamming into the canyon wall. Moments later, a Russian soldier fired an Igla-S manpads at the damaged Skyline Delta from extremely short range. The missile failed to arm fully and struck the rock face. Delta continued forward and detonated at the coupling between the locomotive and the first ammunition car, severing structural connections and disrupting brake continuity between cars. The cars behind entered emergency braking, but momentum and track geometry drove them forward. The first ammunition car collided with the derailed locomotive. Crates ruptured, shells and propellant spilled across burning wreckage. Skyline Echo paused briefly, processing the exposed thermal signatures below. Then it inverted and dived. Small arms fire damaged its optics, but gravity carried it on a ballistic trajectory. Echo detonated amid the exposed munitions. A sympathetic detonation followed. Hundreds of tons of stored explosives and propellant ignited in rapid succession. The blast expanded outward, amplified by canyon walls, producing extreme overpressure. The shockwave destabilized an already heavy snowpack above the track. Shortly afterward, a massive avalanche of snow, ice, and rock collapsed into the canyon, burying the wreckage beneath a debris field exceeding 40 feet in depth. Flames were smothered under compacted debris, and the rail corridor was rendered unusable. Communications from NK-47 ceased. Seismic sensors flatlined. The material damage, including destroyed missiles, ammunition, rolling stock, and expended air defense interceptors, was assessed at approximately $420 million, including nearly $4 million in long-range S-400 missiles expended against decoys worth a fraction of that amount. Koltok Pass was rendered impassable for an estimated 3 weeks. Roughly 10,000 artillery shells never reached forward units. Rail traffic was rerouted to the single-track BAM line, delaying Russia's winter operational timetable by approximately 14 days. The impact extended beyond the immediate battlefield. Confidence in rear area security declined. The reliability of foreign missile deliveries came under scrutiny. A partnership once described as limitless now lay buried beneath Siberian ice. By morning, the balance had shifted, not through overwhelming force, but through precision, sequencing, and an understanding of physical constraints. Ukraine gained critical time. Russia absorbed the loss. The final accounting remained unchanged, roughly $420 million in losses, inflicted by 5 low-cost drones in one winter night. Proof that prestige defenses can be defeated by sequencing, terrain, and physics. The remaining question was not whether this approach worked, but how often it would shape operations in the future. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more updates.